And welcome back to the UGO podcast. I am so excited to be here with my buddy, my friend, my pal, Patience. Patience, say hi.
Hi, ride or die intro.
Hey, Petro, we ride together, we die together.
We ride together, we die together. Maybe not literally, but
where were we riding and dying together? Just this last week, while we were in your hometown, Austin, Texas, at Fantastic Fest.
Yes, and 8 days we rode and died.
For those of you who listen to the podcast, you've heard Patience's lovely voice before. She's been on a bunch of Netflix and Kills. She was on the Predator review, and she's a contributor on Pod Against Evil, our other sister site. And she was nice enough to put me up for my entire Fantastic Fest trip. Thank you so much, Patience. It was a blast to hang out with you and your lovely husband, Carlos. Again, this whole time, I have fun every time I'm down there with you guys, and it was real sad to leave you yet again, and have to put an end to this Fantastic Fest. But boy, what a fest did we have!
Yeah, I mean, we went pretty hard. I didn't go quite as hard as you did, because I'm a little spoiled and I live here. But man, we put in some hours. Fantastic Fest is kind of like a second job in some ways.
Yeah, it is real fun. I got to cover it under That's My E, or That's My Entertainment, so thank them for sending me and all that good stuff. Watch for my articles going up probably sometime next week, something or other. I already written one for Overlord and One Cut of the Dead. Now I'm trying to get some for the other ones going here. But yeah, it was my first time at Fantastic Fest. First time really at a film festival. I normally do most of my con stuff is anime and horror related, just like panels and guests, meet and greets and autographs and that sort of thing. Much more convention rather than festival. So I was very... it was a very new experience for me to do the festival thing, especially being there as press, because when you're there as press, apparently you get a whole extra screening in the morning, so you can go, if you so choose, you could do like 5 movies a day, or is it like 6 movies a day? I forget.
It's 6.
You can do 6 movies a day, which I believe I did one time while I was there. I think I did that one time. Otherwise, it was the first weekend I tried to do like 5 movies a day, and then it was 6 movies. And then by Sunday, I saw Suspiria, and I think you and me both were like, we're done. I can't. And we just left of like, it was 3 hours of dense as fuck movie, and I need to take a break. I can never watch a film again, it feels like. Yeah, I feel like I made some rookie mistakes when doing this Fantastic. I wish I would have budgeted my time a little bit better, because I didn't get as much writing like of other articles done during it, which I feel like I probably could have. Like honestly, I could have spent the hour in between screenings to actually write some of this shit down, because now I'm gonna have to write a lot of this from memory. And like you were saying, Patience, some of these movies are just not that memorable, and like the details are already starting to fade.
Yeah, that's been my experience, because I also do the film at South by Southwest, which is also like about 5 to 7 days long. So in the past few years of doing South by and Fantastic Fest, I think everyone is like, oh, I have to be there the whole entire time. And that is definitely not the case, because, well, I mean, we're a little bit spoiled as press because we do get a separate screening room where we can watch some movies ahead of time. But a lot of people are like, no, I have to do all of the movies the whole entire time, all 5 rounds. And it's really just not healthy to do that. You have to either choose to take the morning off or the midnighters off, because otherwise you're burning the candle at both ends, and it's just too hard.
Yeah, that, and I picked, like, the first couple of times I was picking rounds of movies, I was picking them and I was unaware of what would be playing again, and what I could catch later, and what could I only could catch that at that certain screening. So I didn't pick my battles right there. I missed a couple that I really probably would have really enjoyed, like Perfection and The Boat. So I feel like I missed out a little bit there. I also missed Hold the Dark, but that's going to be like on Netflix in like a week.
Yeah,
so
I think it's like October 19th or something.
Yeah, so it was it was interesting to see that you were there covering it for oneofus.net, correct?
Yeah, I was there with One of Us, and we did a crossover with the Austin Chronicle this year, which was really super amazing. And so we were kind of like doing this whole partnership with Austin Chronicle, and Chris, the owner of oneofus.net, and Richard Whitaker, who is the film editor for the Austin Chronicle, did daily podcasts of like, hey, you should check these movies out and stuff like that. So it was just really super helpful to listen to their podcast every day. And then Nick and I also got to be a part of that group and do some reviews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got to talk about One Cut of the Dead with you on there, and then later I talked with Les about FP2, Deadly Games, and what was the other one we talked? Oh, Tenacious D in Post-Apocalypto.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can go over and check those reviews out over at oneofus.net. Really fun to do. It was interesting to be in the highball doing some of the interviews there too, of like the themed rooms. They were real weird. Like there was the totally outrageous room, which was basically the 80s Gem and the Hologram sort of room. And then like this sacrificial chamber that I did my Dead Wax interview in.
I love that one.
Which was very appropriate for any horror interview and felt real neat.
There's also a zombie room that I think we did the Overlord review in, and then also there's like a Mario. No, it is Mario. It's a whole entire room dedicated to Super Nintendo, and they have like a Pac-Man game in there and everything. It's the highball's great.
Yeah, one regret of mine also during the festival is not going out and just experiencing Austin's food like I usually get to do. Because I had to stick with whatever was like a half hour away from the theater. Because there was only ever like an hour in between, or unless I was going to meet somebody or I was taking a screening, a showing off, which I started to do more liberally as the week went on. I slowly slowed down to about 3 movies a day at a certain point.
And I think that's what people typically do, is like the first half, everyone just is like, balls to the wall, like, let's do this. And then the second half is a little bit more leisurely. Most of all of the celebrities and the industry people have left. And so it's just like hardcore, film people and, second halfers. And it's like, okay, now let's like catch up on all the movies that we missed when we were watching, our first picks. Which are often the best movies, honestly. Yeah,
I saw my favorite movie of the fest real early. Like, I think I saw it, what was it, the second night with you?
Yeah.
With One Cut of the Dead.
One Cut of the Dead, man.
And that was easily like, this is my favorite film of the fest so far, and nothing really knocked it off of that throne.
And it's funny because on closing night, right before Bad Times at the El Royale, they announced the audience favorite, and One Cut of the Dead was hands down the winner. People were like cheering because it won, and it's just phenomenal. And I remember Nick and I were literally like just tears, crying, laughing. Because it's just a phenomenal, it's not a horror movie, it's a comedy movie about making a horror movie. And it's just, I can't recommend enough, and I'm praying that it gets distribution in the US.
Yeah, it is. It's super badass. And it's so weird because I've never been on like a journey like that on with an audience where it loses you for the first half hour and then wins you back to the point where you're rooting for a movie you didn't even like in the beginning. It's real cool. But we did a whole recording on that for One of Us, so you can go there and check it out. Plus, you just do not want anyone to tell you anything about this film before. Like the less you know going into this, the better.
Yep.
It's imagine if you could go back and watch Cabin in the Woods without knowing the twist in it.
Yep.
Wouldn't you go back and do that? Like,
yeah.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like, don't have someone spoil The Sixth Sense for you, or like it really is one of those of like you really need to see it without someone spoiling, because that's part of the journey when watching this movie too, is slowly figuring it out. Like, oh, holy shit, this is what this movie's about. We also watched Overlord, which I watched with Les, and we had a grand old time. If I were the two things I discovered in this festival were that I like watching movies I don't enjoy with patience, with you, Patience, because you are like my spirit animal of like sighing during movies, like like what. And when we watched Starfish together, that movie was so bad, you bought me shots during it.
Yeah.
Which, like...
Well, I didn't want to drink alone, for one. And, I mean, it was, like, straight up, like, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And
it was still... It would never be too late in the day to deal with that bullshit.
That's true. We're watching this movie that clearly you and I both dislike a lot because first of all, I hate shit I hate this artsy horror. It wasn't even horror. And then you're like, I hate dream logic. And it was both of these things.
It's like artsy horror and dream logic fucked and then decided to abandon the baby on our doorstep. And I was like, God damn, we don't want this.
And then,
fuck this.
And then there was like a turtle. And so we're miserable. It's our first movie of the day. It's the day after opening night, so we're a little bit hungover, and we'll talk about opening night in a minute. But we were just like, oh my God, why are we watching this movie instead of something that's amazing? I don't even know how we got stuck in that movie, to be honest. Oh, you know why? I picked it because I was like, oh, it's post-apocalyptic. I like post-apocalyptic.
Well, we were going to see Donnybrook, but then we were late to the screening.
That's what it was.
So we had to get press tickets to Starfish because it was the later showing.
We were running late and it was raining and traffic sucked. That's what the problem was.
Yeah, so that trained me to pretty much catch my own ride there every time after that. I was like, I can't depend on patience. And then plus I wanted to see the early screeners after that point anyway.
Yeah, you were there at like 8 o'clock in the morning every day after that.
Yeah, because I'm a monster. That movie had a moment where it was like, it gets, guys, if you're listening and you might even be vaguely interested in this movie, it gets so far up its own ass that it actually visits its own film set as it's filming. And I'm like, go fuck yourselves. It's so, ugh. And yeah. I think I forgot even how we got on this topic, but like this, it was fun to watch this movie with you and like be miserable together. But what I found is that I also enjoy watching movies with Les, especially movies that we both enjoy, because I got to see Deadly Games, Overlord, and The Night Comes for Us with Les Weiler, and he was a blast to watch with because he is just as excited, if not way more excited than me, to be watching some of these movies.
And all three of those movies are amazing.
Yeah, they're all pretty rad. Those were like my my raise my fist in the air badass movies of the fest. Because One Cut is actually much more of a heartfelt comedy. Like it almost like makes you feel good at the end of it. These ones are much more adrenaline, kind of like that was fucking awesome movies. And I remember me and Les watching Overlord were like, we were clapping when we both clapped at the same time when Bokeem Woodbine showed up. We were like, Bokeem Woodbine! Oh my goodness! This guy's probably screwed. And yeah, so we got to see Overlord early. I think I have my review is already typed up and sent over, so you can go check out my thoughts there. But what did you think of it, Patience?
I actually liked Overlord. It's a fun movie. I think you even mentioned this during your review. It's a very cool action adventure movie that turns like World War II, I'm on a mission with my band of brothers and, we're gonna go and like do this. And the opening sequence is like you're on the edge of your seat. It's tense, it's exciting, it's suspenseful.
It's very Saving Private Ryan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
To the point where you can imagine, I think I said this, you can imagine Tom Hanks in one of those boats underneath there. It turns out to be very flammable airplane.
A lot of extremely flammable airplanes.
They just erupt in flame. But yeah,
at some point it turns into like, and a lot of people said this, and I agree. At some point it turns into like Wolfenstein, where it's just like, then all of a sudden it's like, wait, now we're like trying to infiltrate this castle full of Nazi zombies, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, I would say the one thing that might hurt it when it hits theaters is that the trailers are selling the supernatural, like, Nazi super soldier stuff really hard. And that stuff really stays mostly in the background until the third act.
Yeah.
And even then, it's not like there's one type of super, it's not like a bunch of experiments are fighting them. There's one certain thing that is like the formula that is making these super soldiers / zombies. And there's not a whole lot of variety in that.
Yeah.
But the action is badass, especially in the opening sequence and the closing sequence of the action. I would say that the man on the mission element is so good, and the actors are actually all very good in this, even though they're all playing types. Like, they're all pretty good. Like, the Kurt Russell's kid is real good in this.
And that was what I was going to say, and I said this in our review, and I'll say it again. Wyatt Russell was absolutely, I thought, like, the takeaway from this movie. He just, like, dominated the screen. Every scene he was in, you're like, holy shit, that is without a doubt Kurt Russell's kid. And he was absolutely amazing in this, and I hope that this is like his breakthrough role.
Yeah, I'd say we just slap a eye patch on this kid and do the Escape from New York sequel, and let's just get it done. You know Hollywood's going to do it eventually. Let's just do it with this kid.
Or a lot of people were like, "Hey, why is he not going to be in Big Trouble in Little China? Why is he not going to be in the remake?"
Well, look, as far as the Scott Eastwood scale of famous actors' kids getting into the business, this kid's hitting it out of the park. Like, there is no contest.
You really do have a lot of, like, issues with Scott Eastwood.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't if he would just, I don't know, emote or, fucking try. That dude is like, we always make fun of people like, say, what's it, like, now I can't remember, but the Captain Boomerang from Suicide Squad.
Oh, yeah.
Jai Courtney.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Sam Worthington and these other actors that are interchangeable and blocks of wood.
Yeah.
Well, Scott Eastwood is the blockiest of the woods. Like, he is nothing. He leaves no impression. Like, he makes you crave Paul Walker in the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Oh, God. See, that's how I felt about Dakota Johnson in Suspiria. Like, she has about as much charisma as a fucking brick. And
Okay, so while we're on it, let's get into Suspiria, because that's another one I wanted to talk about. And it's funny you should mention Dakota Johnson, because I will be honest with you, Patience. Every scene Dakota Johnson enters in, and if I haven't seen her for a while, I actually think that they're introducing a whole new character. Because she leaves so little impact on the audience with this performance, and it is staggering to see her next to Tilda Swinton killing it as usual.
Yep.
And these other actors, the movie starts off with a crazy ass Chloe Grace Moretz, and you're kind of like, okay, this chick is nuts, but she seems off the wall. I'm actually interested to follow her story and how she got to this point. So when you're stuck with boring ass Dakota Johnson, you're like, what? But no, you had such a better movie before. I don't understand why Chloe Grace Moretz why they couldn't be the same character. It doesn't even, it seemed, oh.
Honestly,
and I get.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I get that they were probably going for the audience cipher thing of not wanting her to be super distinctive anyway, so that the audience can put themselves onto her character. But honestly, I'm not going to be in that. I can't put myself on this dancer in a period piece anyway. She's not reacting like I would react, or any normal human being would react to all this weird fucking shit. And so I just don't get what the point of, what was the draw of casting her in this, rather than it was some sort of contractual obligation. But you go ahead, Patience.
I was just going to say, there is a lot of speculation amongst the moviegoers that perhaps she was specifically chosen because she's such a banal actor, that she would be the backdrop for Tilda Swinton's absolutely amazing performance. So it's one of those things, was Tilda Swinton so good because Dakota Johnson was so bad, or was Dakota Johnson so bad because Tilda Swinton was so good? It's like a chicken or the egg kind of an argument. So a lot of the moviegoers, and I am not kidding you, there were Fantastic Fest participants that walked out of this movie and
they were also excited too.
Yeah. And there was a lot of people that were like, oh, it wasn't so bad. But I never once heard anybody say, oh my God, I really like the new Suspiria. Not one person said that to me. And I agree. I did not like it.
I tell you what, it's weird because I actually did kind of like it, at least more than I like Argento and the more the Giallo stuff anyway.
Yeah.
Because it set itself in enough of a reality that I could kind of understand, that I vaguely understood the stakes and what could happen to these characters, to the point where there's some weird stuff that happens. This movie has 6 acts and something really badass happens every 2 acts, which is it's weird and visually arresting and cool. But this movie is 3 fucking hours long.
3 hours.
And jeez, so a little background on me. Once we hit an hour and a half, I start to play film editor in my head with almost any movie I'm watching. And I start to go back in my head and start to analyze what scenes we could have cut to get this down to a clean 90 minutes. Because that's why I feel a movie lives and breathes, is at the 90-minute mark. And if you're really good, if you're really capturing my attention, maybe you got me for 2 hours. But even then, I feel like that's a rare exception. 3 hours is a fucking endurance test. I'm actually glad I missed the next movie I saw, because I would have had to rush to the other theater. It was already seating by the time I got out of fucking Suspiria. And I don't know. I feel like it's weird how long the movie is, and I definitely felt it because I had one of those stupid fucking fold-out chairs too.
Oh.
And yeah, and I wish I would have seen some of the people walk out of my theater so I could just steal their fucking chairs. It's weird because I only remember, if I go off of the scenes that I remember, I think I have like an hour movie in my head because I only remember certain distinctive scenes so much, and now I'm just like, how is that movie 3 hours long?
Honestly, I feel like 2 hours of it was fucking Dakota Johnson dancing. And I'm just like, and I had this conversation, the same conversation with a colleague of ours, a fan of one of us, and I was just like, I could have cut 45 minutes out of this movie, maybe even an entire hour out of this movie, and it would have not hurt the movie at all. Not even a little bit.
It would have really helped it, actually.
Yeah,
it would have tightened shit up.
And I mean, I understand, like, being a horror fan, I completely understand that giallo is not for everybody. You know, like, it's a very, like, niche subgenre of films, and this one is more grounded in reality. It's not as pretty, it's not as artistic, it's not... If you're going in there expecting Argento's Love Child, you're going to be really disappointed. I was not going in there expecting that, and I was like, I would have walked out if I hadn't had a tab, honestly. I would have probably left. I was exhausted after the movie. Exhausted, and not in a good way.
I'm not too proud to admit that I fell asleep a couple times. Like,
that's why you liked it, is because you missed some of it.
I probably missed a good 5 to 10 minutes off of it. Like, it was just... yeah, and then there, like, I'm not a big fan of deeply rooted, like, visual metaphor, and just, like, I don't know, for me, movies are a storytelling device. They're a narrative. And there was a lot of films in this festival in particular that I knew festival circuits had these films too that I tried to avoid, which are like art films or visual like experiences, which are basically, they don't like, if the story is not so important, it's just about the visuals and how they make you feel. And whatever part of me is just that takes an image and evokes whatever feeling that the creator wants it to, is just disconnected, I think. Because without a solid story or a stated goal or some sort of sense of forward momentum, I get bored very easily.
You mean like a plot?
Yeah, I really need like a plot. And I think that's why I wasn't crazy about films like Starfish or Lady World or Lose, which were all like these dream logic, you know, the experience is more important than what's actually going on, or anything that could be like, you know, gleaned from it. Like, you know, in Starfish I actually wrote, because I was writing notes during all these movies. It's funny, in Starfish I wrote, we're at the 2 goddamn hour mark. Stop showing landscapes slightly out of focus, you artistic fuck. Which I felt real bad about later, because I realized that the director had a loss in his life, and switched up the movie halfway through making it, which is why it feels like 2 distinct different narratives mashed up together.
Yeah, I mean, he was mourning, or the director, he or she, I can't remember which, was mourning.
It was a he.
Okay, the loss of a loved one, and this was like, you know, all about their loss and mourning. But I feel like, and I this may sound cold-hearted, but I feel like they forgot to make a movie, you know, in the midst of their mourning. And I mean, sure, like, maybe you should have taken a step back, or maybe you should have rethought things, but the movie really is just this weird conglomeration of feelings and thoughts that don't end up making any sense at all, or they just don't have any coherence. And it was really weird for me to hear people be like, oh my gosh, Starfish was my favorite movie. And I'm just like, how in the hell was that your favorite movie? Like, I don't even understand that.
Yeah, and it like I said, whatever part of me that, like, whatever crowd that works on, because it definitely does work on a crowd. Like, I remember leaving the theater with you, and I think I said something to the effect of, I can't wait for film students to try and explain to me why I'm wrong about this movie.
Yep.
And And like that's where I feel like that movie lives and dies, is with these film students, or I still don't remember what movie it was, of like that had Adrian Brody in it, that was like he wants to make a film about nothing, and it's like, what are you talking about, you dumbass kid? There's stories happening all around you and you want to make a story about nothing.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, like I it's just funny because like how many movies I saw that just had plot elements crop up and then get disregarded without ever going back to them, like whoever the hell is on the other end of the walkie-talkie in Starfish, or
God. Yeah.
why we can see light in Lady World even though they're supposed to be underground and trapped by this fucking earthquake and unable to get out. What in the fuck is actually happening in Luz? Of like, is it an alien or a demon, or what is happening? But so those were not my favorite, but they aren't my type of movie anyway. So I wasn't really expecting that. Like, there was only one flop that was my type of movie that I saw, which was Girls with Balls.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, it was very, it's about a volleyball team that gets trapped by rednecks out like in the boonies, and it sounds very Tucker and Dale versus Evil, like kind of like Bring It On versus the Wrong Turn Hillbillies, but it is not that. It takes a swing for that and misses. Yeah, you're better off for the meta horror or meta comedy horror. You're better off with One Cut of the Dead or You Might Be the Killer.
Oh my gosh,
which I also really
enjoyed.
The
Killer. We watched that in our screening room together, and we just had such a blast watching that. Mm-hmm. It's such a great take on a meta horror. It's very, for those of you that are into horror, you would probably equate it mostly to, I would say, Leslie Vernon. Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon is the full title of the movie.
See, you know that movie too, and Les told me that movie, and I had seen Behind the Mask years ago, but I couldn't remember what the name of the movie was, so I was never able to find it again.
Oh, man.
So now that Les reminded me what the actual name of that fucking movie is, I'm actually looking, like, trying to find out where to watch it, because that is an awesome movie. They
showed the anniversary edition of that movie at South by Film last year. And I mean, everyone was like, oh my God, we have to see it on the big screen, because no one knew about this movie until it was like, it's like one of those cult classics, word of mouth kind of a thing. And if you haven't seen it, oh my gosh, I
have my own Hayhab.
I love the fact, like, one of my favorite lines is, and actually we were talking about this with a colleague of ours, about You Might Be the Killer, is Leslie Vernon at one point is like, oh, I work out so much, I have to do a lot of cardio because I do so much running. And they're like, but you don't run, you walk. And he's like, do you know how much cardio I have to do to make it look like I'm just walking? And I feel like You Might Be the Killer is kind of along the lines. It's like Sleepaway Camp meets Leslie Vernon meets a little bit of Cabin in the Woods, but not supernatural. Well, a little supernatural.
Yeah. I do love this movie, You Might Be the Killer. It's a shame that One Cut of the Dead kind of stole the meta comedy trophy from it, because otherwise it would have been the Tucker and Dale versus Evil of the fest.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, I do feel like it loses a little steam in the third act of, like, not really knowing where to go. And then I thought the ending wasn't going to satisfy me until the very end, where the counter that is involved. Because, like, it constantly shows the counter of how many counselors are dead to show where you are in the story, which is a very fun tool to use via the flashbacks. And at the very end scene, right before the credits hit, is like, oh, okay, that was totally worth it. It's a great little nod to, like, Friday the 13th and
Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah.
I mean, any like 80s slasher horror, I feel like.
Yeah. So, did you see anything else that was not your particular cup of tea? Like, I know you saw some of the Dream Logic stuff with me, but was anything else not particularly floating your boat?
Oh, geez. Other than Suspiria, I think the only other thing, and I'm probably gonna have an unpopular opinion here, but I think the only other thing that I really truly disliked, it's not that I didn't dislike it or didn't like it, it's that it's just not my taste, was Tenacious D and Post-Apocalypto. And I thought it's very fun. It's 6 10-minute little animated episodes with, Jack Black and Kyle Glass, right?
I don't remember his last name.
Cage and Jable. And it's Tenacious D in this post-apocalyptic animated series that Jack Black actually animated himself. And it's very, very much Tenacious D. And each episode has like an original song, and there's like a Timinator, and there's like a 3-headed dog, and there's the only problem that I had with it is just that it's very much a juvenile sort of piece of cinema. It's so like
a lot of dick jokes and like surprise blowjobs, and
it's not a lot of dick jokes, it's all dick jokes. And, even the animation, every single thing is like made of a dick.
It's not really even animation, it's really storyboards.
That's true, yeah.
That are like lightly moved sometimes. I think I did enjoy the improv like style, like feeling of it, of like flubbed lines and the overall impression. And plus, the songs were pretty good. I gotta kick a lot of the songs.
I was actually watching it with Les, and as you said, Les is hysterical to watch a funny movie with. He was like crying, laughing the whole entire time. Like he was just like breaking down laughing. And I actually felt like he contributed and gave me a better experience because he was enjoying it so much. But afterwards, a couple days later, I was like, no, that really kind of fucking sucked. Like, it really wasn't that great. The experience of hanging out with Les and just seeing him crack up was amazing. And seeing Jack Black and Kyle in real life was amazing. And then seeing them perform afterwards was just mind-blowingly, I mean, it was like a bucket list item for me. Because they played all their best songs, and it was fucking fantastic. And I say fantastic a lot because it's fantastic.
Yeah, that was a fun experience. I never saw them live before, so that was really cool.
Yeah, me either.
Speaking of watching films with Les, I got to watch The Night Comes With Us, and the last press keening I saw with Les. It was one of the last movies I saw. I saw The Night Comes With Us with Les, and then I went to hang out with you the last day I was there, and we watched You Might Be the Killer, and it was a great twofer to watch. And The Night Comes For Us, if you guys don't know what that movie, it is a Indonesian action crime movie that is like, it's very interesting because we went to go see Apostle, which was the Gareth Evans movie, which was a English folklore horror, and this movie was not the Gareth Evans movie, even though it felt very much like a Raid sequel.
And it had the two main characters in Raid in it.
Indeed, yeah.
So it was like kind of weird, like, wait, which one's the Gareth Evans movie?
Yeah, one of them, it was the main guy, Iko Uwe, which is the Raid guy. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right or not, but yeah. He was good in this too. And then, yeah, watching this with Les, it was great to watch some of the kills in here because imagine, the door kill in the Raid, it was like, holy shit, and then everyone you were watching with kind of went like, god damn. That like happens every 5 minutes in this movie.
This movie is relentless. Literally.
It is amazing, this movie.
I absolutely love this movie, but of course, for those of you that, ever heard me on Netflix and Kill, I am a gore hound, and this movie there was actually a point in this movie that I was like, wow, that went a little bit too far. I said that.
Yeah. Me and Les kept looking at each other like, God damn! They didn't need to do that to that guy.
It was so good.
Like, you're just watching along, and it's a regular martial arts fight, and then until someone goes like, oh shit, did that guy get a bottle in his face? Like, in his face, not smashed across his face, like, stabbed in his face. Like...
I mean, there's, like, meat hooks and chainsaws and...
Oh, man, that butcher's fight, like...
That one was my favorite.
It was like it really is Friday the 13th if it was for the Raid franchise, because it takes a vacation with Raid fights. Like, here we're gonna fight in a butcher shop. Now we're gonna fight in a moving truck, and now we're gonna fight in this compact hallway, and now we're gonna fight in a warehouse. Like, and also everyone, the main character, our main good guy that we're following, at a certain point he has to have whatever the Indonesian version of the super soldier serum is. Like, he spends most of this movie with a fucking gunshot wound in his gut, and he's still ripping people apart. Like, it's crazy. Also, one of my favorite sub characters, White Boy Bob, White Boy Bobby.
I love that guy.
That guy's great. Love that guy. Really brings new meaning to the one-legged man in the ass-kicking contest.
Well, I mean, he's like, he doesn't stop. He just keeps going. Like, he's full of holes, and he just will not stop killing people.
Well, and who do you get when you have superhumans destroying, like, 20 to 30 guys at a time? Why, you get supervillains.
Yeah.
And these ones have lesbian assassin supervillains that come... out of nowhere. They're almost like from a different movie.
I actually kind of like the fact that there were 3 main female characters, one of whom I don't think has any lines at all. But they were just like so kick-ass. They were just as much of kick-ass characters as the guys were in this film. Mm-hmm. And I just really appreciated that.
Me too. Although I do, I do get to I do like that the Asian cinema has gotten to the point of like where we were in the 90s, where it's a lesbian character, so they are definitely evil and or must die.
That's true.
So I look forward to 10 years from now where they catch up and get progressive enough to have them die on completely different circumstances. And yeah,
that's true.
I also liked all the female characters, although the one, the inadvertent ally character seems to ally with our main guy for a little to no reason, or at least it's never explained. It feels like a lot of this movie is actually set up for another movie, like it's like the first in a franchise, which at the end of it, you're kind of like, I don't know if this movie's franchise can continue. I mean, I guess it could, but it would take some explaining.
I mean, unlike The Raid, I think that this movie just didn't have much going on plot-wise. And, I mean, it ends up being an amazing movie, and you don't care. Like, halfway through the movie, you're like, I have no idea what the fuck's going on right now, and I really just don't care. Because it's so much fun, and the fight scenes are just so well choreographed. So, I mean, you have, like, a basic plot. They take this extremely, like, just bottom line basic plot, and then everyone just kills each other.
Yeah, and credits to the movie for having a fight in a warehouse that's obviously doesn't make whatever, like, sparks or whatever the hell they're making in the one of, like, very clean warehouse. Oh, I hear our friend. Yes!
Is it Travis?
Travis is here.
Oh, don't put that on the recording because that sounded terrible.
Yeah, no. Oh, hey, Travis.
Hey, what'd I miss?
Hey, we were just talking about The Night Comes for Us and some of the badass films we watched at Fantastic Fest. So you can sit and listen.
Remember that one little festival you didn't get to go to?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Patience.
Sorry, we missed you. We missed you, Travis.
Well, I missed you too,
Literally.
Patience. I didn't miss Nick, but...
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, The Night Comes for Us. It's very great. I think it's hitting Netflix, too. Is it hitting Netflix?
Yeah, it should be out on Netflix, I believe, October 19th.
Wow, really soon. So, cool. Travis, we have a new movie for us to watch.
Okay, I'm into it. Mm-hmm. From what I've heard of it so far. Yeah,
you'll be into it if, like... We almost run out of ways to kill people in it.
Wow.
To be honest.
Oh my god. Seriously, Travis, you know how, like, I have a gut of steel? There was one point in the movie where I looked to one of our colleagues, Jacob, and I was just like, that was kind of gross.
Was it the pool balls?
Yes, it was the pool balls. How did you know it was the pool balls?
Because me and Les kind of looked at each other when he was killing people with those pool balls, and it was like, damn. Like, wow. We just looked at each other like, oh, jeez.
That kind of went a little
something
far.
that goes to a patient, that is impressive.
Well, it gets to a point where the hero of it, will terrify you way more than the villain.
That sounds about right.
Like, he is so scary, murdering these people with a smile on his face. And... you come to realize that there's a point in this movie where he sets 3 dudes on fire.
Oh, that's a terrible way of dying.
And it's almost like, it wasn't even like it was easier for him to do it. It was more like he was bored of shooting them. It's like, yeah, I've kind of been there, done that. You know what I haven't done in a while? Is watch someone burn. And it's, and it's funny because it's the role reversal of the good guy from the raid is now kind of the somewhat bad guy of this one, but his morals are a little more complicated than that. And
he's like the anti-hero.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it comes down to a fight in a warehouse with these two, and they just like start to rip chunks from each other in a way that you want to see from a Wolverine versus Sabretooth fight.
Wow.
Of just tearing chunks out of each other, and like the fight is not there's not a lot of dignity in the fight. It's just like
raw,
and everything is against the wall. And I loved it. If it had more of a, if they'd put a little more effort into the story and had some of the stuff connect a little bit more, it would have been my favorite film of the fest. Yeah. I don't know, what else did you see, Patience, that was getting you excited?
Oh gosh. One of my, and this literally was probably my second favorite movie of the fest, even though I waited super hyped for Apostle and Hold the Dark. I would say The Perfection.
I believe we pronounced the Hold the Dark as Hold the Dark. Or Hold the Dark.
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 Which I don't think you got to see either of those, did you, Dick?
I did not. No, I did get to see Apostle. Yeah, I did dig Apostle.
Okay. I did like Apostle, and I would say that's like a solid third place for me, tied with Hold the Dark. But The Perfection completely came out of nowhere and knocked me on my ass, figuratively. It is... Okay, being a horror fan and watching as many movies, and I know you guys can agree with me on this, watching as many movies as we do, we're constantly watching movies, like, of course there's tropes, of course there's, things, and you always see what's coming, you always know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And, there's, the magic sort of gets taken away when you work in our business. This movie, halfway through, I was completely like, holy shit, I did not see that coming.
Wow.
The first chapter, it's in 4 chapters. First of all, let me give you a little plot breakdown. It's about these 2 rival celloists, which, if you ask Nick, is kind of one of his worst nightmares because he doesn't like woodwind instruments, I believe. Or no, string instruments. Is that what it is?
I'm not a fan of woodwind instruments. I can deal with them. String instruments are the devil's playthings, and they should not be trifled with.
No violins, no cellos.
I think I made a joke about because why I didn't see the movie, because Patience was giving me shit about it, and I think I made a joke of like a celloist touching me or something. So that became the running joke of the fest. Like every time we were talking to someone and they mentioned the perfection, Patience would go like, "Oh, Nick didn't get to see it because of a celloist touched him," and it was like, God damn. The joke doesn't really work out of the context of the very specific conversation we were having.
I can only imagine, yeah.
So I loved defending myself there of everyone giving me these weird looks like, what?
You're welcome.
But yeah, I saw that it was going to be about a celloist, and I kind of like, well, I could do this, or I could go grab drinks with a friend of mine in town that I hadn't seen in a while. So I went and did that instead.
Yeah, you read the synopsis. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, you read the synopsis. It's not really like it would seem not
thrilling.
Yeah, not super stand out. Like you could definitely tell, like, oh, okay, it probably has a twist in it or something to justify it being a Fantastic Fest. But it was it really didn't drag me in. So this was one of the ones I genuinely regret missing.
Yeah, it's outstanding. Again, it's one of those very rare finds where you're just like, holy shit, I had no clue that's that was going to happen. Like, it really surprised me, which is very hard to do. And then it has two amazing up-and-comers. It has Allison Williams, who was the girlfriend in Get Out, and then it also has Logan Browning, who is in a lot of amazing things right now. And she's just, they're both like super up and coming actresses. It also has Steven Weber as like this creepy pervy, their cello composer / mentor. And it ends up just really blowing your mind. And I want to say it's the fourth chapter, because technically it's literally broken down into four chapters. The fourth chapter, you're like, my fucking God, what just happened?
Damn.
It's phenomenal. It really is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. I keep looking through my notes here of like movies I saw and just some stuff that I wrote down. And some of them are pretty funny. Of like, I just wrote down For the Night Comes for Us. I just wrote down different objects, bones, hooks, grenade. Holy shit! Like, holy shit! That guy's face. Pool ball, lightning. Like, no, lighting.
Oh, lighting.
That's right.
That makes a little more sense.
Yeah, that one makes more sense. I was impressed with some of the lighting.
I was like, wow.
Kill someone with lightning in this movie? What is this?
White Boy Bobby, best name ever. And, like, it's funny because our screening of The Night Comes for Us got fucked up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we just saw a black screen with ocean noises and then gunshots. And we were like, and me and Les looked at each other like, man, it's been like 3 minutes. This this seems like a really bold choice to show no visuals during this scene. And then I was like, is our screening fucked up? Or is this a really... And then Les was like, no, we've moved past the Artur theory, and I'm just like, no, our screening's fucked up.
You've gone a little too far.
So we went back out and we had to restart the movie again, which was funny, because I legit did not know of, like... Honestly, I don't know, man. Like, this is the place for these weird avant-garde films.
Just 20 minutes of ocean noises on black screen. Mm-hmm. End scene.
Yeah.
But how did it make you feel?
There were some films
it's like
that
you
I
were
would
there,
like...
Travis.
Yeah, like a lot of the films got introduced by people that had picked, or people who were in charge of programming and got to pick it. One guy was very nice in letting us know the deal with One Cut of the Dead, or at least telling us to stick through the first half hour. Which was helpful advice. Is like, hey, at the 37-minute mark, you're gonna fall in love with this movie.
I can see that'd be useful at a fest.
Yeah, because that one asks a lot of time from you, so you could easily see people walking out in the first 30 minutes. But if you stick with it, I could understand Starfish just because the people like that sort of thing. I don't understand those people, but I know they exist. Lady World was made you mad, but it was on purpose, so whatever that's worth, I guess. There's some people that like the anti-entertainment and being uncomfortable. There was only one film that I did not understand why someone had picked it. Because I even understand Girls with Balls, because I'm like, I'm sure this is funny to somebody, and it really works. I did not understand why Open 24 Hours was picked. Because it's not a meta comedy. It's not bad on purpose like Lady World or Dream Logic or anything like that. It's a pretty straightforward horror movie that's just not very good. Like, it's structurally pretty bad. It deals with a lot of hallucinations. And because our main character has hallucinations, it's hard to tell what's real or what's not in any given scene. And when you don't know the stakes of anything that's happening, it's hard to get invested in what is happening to any of the characters.
Right.
And it ends in a pretty shitty way, too. The only part of that for Open 24 Hours that I did like was that the gas station was on point for a northeastern, like, Wisconsin gas station. Like, most gas stations that they shoot in for whatever horror movies, they always look like, I don't know, like an inner city gas station that is like, it's either really nice or it's it's so run down that it barely even functions. Like, there's all like parts of the walls missing. So it was nice to see this one that was like just shitty enough on the outside, and like some of the stuff didn't work in it, but obviously people clean it on a regular basis,
right?
Which is much more authentic.
Believable.
Yeah, what's much more authentic to gas stations up north that when I would used to go hunting with my dad. And so, like, that was what was impressing about me the most of that movie. I was just like, man, the pickled pig's tongue is even in the right spot, which is right outside the door, so that they can move it, because obviously they don't get any more of the more intake of that. So they're just trying to move it by having it the most conveniently to be picked up by whoever might come in here. Yeah, I mean, there were some other ones that I didn't understand why they were at this festival to begin with. Like, Destroyer is just a cop movie.
Oh.
It's not really a genre film at all, but apparently they've expanded it to be movies they just consider fantastic, whatever that means.
Well, I think the problem with The Destroyer was that it's, the director of The Invitation, correct?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the only reason why they bothered having that movie there. I did not see it. As far as I know, everyone was like, yeah, it was okay.
No, I saw it. It is okay. It's good. It's a shame that the flashbacks during it are a much more interesting story than the generic cop, alcoholic, guilty cop story on top of it. Like, you almost wish that we were watching the flashback story instead, because it's just a lot more interesting.
Never a good sign.
Well, I mean, it's not even like that story is bad. Plus, they do something near the end, which is actually, I wish they would have done earlier, because the cop, like, Nicole Kidman as this cop doing her whole monster thing of really uglying herself up to play this, like, she does look like an alcoholic that's been at it for a while. And they show at the end, like, she feels guilty for what happened during her undercover mission that they keep flashing back to. And then finally it shows that, she doesn't feel guilty just because she failed to stop her partner from dying, which was Sebastian Stan. She doesn't just feel guilty because she messed up or failed or just like this standard hero thing of feeling guilty. She feels guilty because she legitimately made a big decision that contributed to his death.
Ooh. And
was actually, she was very much in the wrong. She made a very selfish decision, and she feels her guilt is 100% justified. You are like, oh no, that was your fault. You was 100% your fault, and you should feel bad about yourself. Which almost never happens in stories like these.
No.
Which was the aspect that I did like about it that comes in a little too late to it does enhance the movie, but only to a little bit above a generic cop movie. Yeah, that was pretty much all the ones I wanted to make. I mean, I liked the Blood of Wolves. It's got buried under like there was just a much better Asian crime movie in The Night Comes for Us at the fest.
Yeah.
So I think that one got a little bit left at the wayside there. I don't know. Did you have anything else you wanted to mention, Patience? I suppose we should mention we should mention our favorite one, Petro, when we opened this, we were...
hell yeah.
We talked about the FP2 Beats of Rage.
Beats of Rage! What? Okay, so FP is kind of like I have a friend group who is specifically, like, obsessed with the original FP, which you can find on YouTube, by the way, which Nick and I watched one afternoon before we went to go watch FP2, because I was like, you have to watch FP if you're going to go to FP2 with me. And then we watched FP2, and Nick's like, this is amazing. And then we went to FP2,
I think my exact
and
words...
J-Tro...
My exact words 15 minutes in were, this is the best movie in the world.
That's pretty... Okay, this is one of those movies that is not for everyone. It's one of those, like, cult classics, so bad it's good, but it's bad on purpose kind of a movie. So it's kind of like your Airplane. It's your tongue-in-cheek, like, Naked Gun, silly, like, over the top. The premise is that in the post-apocalypse, there's these gangs that are fighting over alcohol, and they compete against each other playing Dance Dance Revolution, but it's called Beat Beat Revelation, or Beat Beat in the movie. And it's just so dumb and silly and fun, and it's just the main writer is Jason Troust, who is also the main actor in the
plays
movies.
J-Tro in the film.
J-Tro, because they couldn't be original enough to give each other actual, like, nicknames. It's just their, and his brother Petro, who is Brandon
because it was the
Troust.
two brothers, and they are J-Tro and B-Tro, and that was just an in-joke between them of, like,
their whole entire lives.
Yeah, like some 90s thing they made up one time, and that just stuck. Like, and then I got to interview Jason Troust, and he was amazing. The eye patch he wears is a real eye patch.
Are you there? Okay, you're good.
I forget.
And not only did you got to interview Jason Troust, but it just so happened to be my birthday. And
which happy belated birthday, Patience.
Thank you, Travis. I appreciate that. So intro, Nick hung out with Jason Troust, interviewed him, and then proceeded to purchase me a copy of the FP and have it autographed for me for my birthday. And it's just like, happy birthday, Patience. Yo, Jason Troust. It's like the most perfect thing.
Yeah, and then I got one for myself out of the Alamo Drafthouse movie vending machine, which is just awesome. A movie vending machine, like a Blu-ray vending machine.
That's pretty awesome.
All good deals, too. You can get them for $10 a pop. Yeah. Like, they were pretty cheap.
Wow.
Yeah, and I got one for myself, and his said, to Nick, thanks and shit. Which is just awesome.
Yeah, they have their own language, and I think that's one of the funnest things about it. I think a lot of people that might be irritated by that. These movies are not for everyone. Because they have their own, like, why are you such a cracker? Or, like, don't be such cranberry juice, bitch. It's just...
Would you go to Halloween? The villain is the best in this movie. He's like, what, you go to Halloween as a bitch? Like, which I think is my new, like, diss on people now. Is like, what, did you dress up as a bitch on Halloween?
And the villain's name in the FP2 is AK-47. And then J-Tro's hype man is KCDC, and it's just like, you gotta re-ninja. That's the whole point. And if you use that metaphor in your daily life, you will understand the FP and FP2 pizza rage.
Well, that was funny because at the screening we saw, there was a guy in a tux and a woman in a wedding dress around, and we were like, what are they doing? Are they dressed up for something? Is this a thing that I'm not aware of? No, they came from their actual wedding. Because Jason Tross had attended their wedding party.
Oh.
Because they met each other at a previous festival and started to, like, they bonded over the FP. Like, they were like, oh my god, you seen the FP? Yeah, that movie's amazing! And it started their relationship to a point where they got married on the eve of the Fantastic Fest premiere of the FP2 Beats of Rage.
That's a little too much.
It's like destiny was calling to them. So, I believe I'm stealing a joke from Les Weiler, but you know that 5 years from now, they're going to renege their vows. Like, and I love this fucking movie. Like, and I love, like, the sequel is, you know, I think I like the first one a little bit more just because it was fresh and very special, and like, I think you can only capture that level of it, like, once. But the sequel is just more of the FP. It's not like it's any worse or anything.
I would... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Like, no, I just want to say, I think it's, if you like the FP, you're gonna love the FP2 Beats of Rage. I don't think there's anything, in there. Like, it's a real fun time.
The first one is definitely better. I think that the FP2, you get kind of caught up in that whole festival, you know, mindset where everyone's cheering and laughing and clapping and shouting.
Yeah, so much for that talking rule in the Alamo Drafthouse.
Yeah,
that went out the window at this screening.
It was like 1 o'clock in the morning and everyone was drunk, including us, I believe. Maybe?
Shocking. No way. I don't believe it.
Travis. But,
I mean, I'm glad at least I didn't get a call saying, you sleep, you little bitch. So, there's that.
Travis could be in a bitch.
I thought about it.
You thought about it?
There was a couple of times I was like, let's call Travis. And Nick's like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, patience. Let's not call Travis.
It was, for those of you who flashback to our Anime Austin episode in which we visited Patience back then, and when Travis tried to go to bed, he was shamed out of it, Marty McFly style, by Patience calling him a bitch.
Like,
she was screaming at me that I was a
bitch. And Travis was like, I have to get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. Like, I don't fucking care. You're on vacation. We're drinking.
And it's like 1 a.m. at this time.
Yeah, that was a fun experience as well. I'm glad I got to see both that and the one cut in the theater, even though they were both in the screening room.
I have to say, Nick, one of my favorite nights was our opening night, because everyone kind of like, it's the first night and everyone's like being super studious and going to all of the films. And Nick and I were like, fuck it, we're going to dress up in our Halloween costumes and go to the Halloween party.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. And we had such a good time. Well, at least I did. I assume you did as well. Nick taught me how to bob for apples, which is not easy.
Yeah,
by the way.
You all big talk from you.
That is incredibly difficult.
Yeah, us Midwesterners invented bobbing for apples. Do not come at me with your bobbing the apples is easy bullshit. And yeah, I got to go in my Mass Effect cosplay that I casually wear at cons. She had her Carrie get up, and she won the costume contest.
Nice.
What? I did. Mm-hmm. And I got to stab Michael Myers in the face.
Yeah, she got a Michael Myers cake. Oh man, we didn't even talk about the Halloween.
I'm glad you put the cake part on, because I actually just assumed that she found a Michael Myers cosplayer and stabbed him in the face.
Yeah, the guy holding the cake before was like, yeah, you stuck the knife in the cake so hard I had to like peel off his face to get it off. Like I could not get the knife out.
I'm sorry. I actually kind of cut myself on it was a real knife. It was like a real fucking butcher knife, and I didn't realize it, and I kind of cut myself a little bit. But yeah, I stabbed Michael Myers in the face. The Michael Myers cake.
Right.
In the face. But yeah, we saw Halloween, which was just okay.
I'll tell you what, I liked it more than I feel like a lot of people are going to like that movie. I can tell you right now, like when I watched The Last Jedi and when I watched, I suppose I didn't know that after watching The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi taught me how to notice this in films. Like when I watched The Predator, I was like, this is gonna split people. Like people are gonna hate this. And there are certain parts, like I don't want to go into too many spoilers, but there's certain parts in the second act of the new Halloween film that break a lot of not only like Halloween rules, but like horror movie in general rules. And it's gonna miff some people. Like they're gonna get and to be honest, me as well, I was not digging the second act as much either, because they do this thing with Michael Myers of doing a lot of the kills in one take, of him going through a house and finding the negative space and finding the exact right way to walk into a house without anyone noticing him. Like, he has a probability field, like whatever Jack Sparrow has in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies that get him from, like, not getting shot or killed by anything. Michael Myers has that without getting seen by anybody. Like, he has, like, a sixth sense about it.
I mean, that'd be a useful superpower to have for a murdering psychopath.
But also because these shots look cool, don't get me wrong, they look neat, but because they are so, I'm assuming, so difficult to pull off, they're all very fast. So there's not a whole lot of time to build up the anticipation to the kill, and you don't get a lot of tension in them, but at all.
So it's more artistic than horror.
Yeah, and so, I'm not sure. Do you agree with that, Patience? Patience, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, you guys, you've been cutting out for a while now, so I'm just trying to...
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I've been, like, you guys, it's like that weird, like, burst of sound, and then, like, that, I don't know how to describe it, and then I can't hear you for, like, seconds at a time.
It's weird because we're not getting anything on our end.
Yeah, you sound pretty clear. I don't know.
Okay,
I'll check Skype.
It's fine, and I have the Audacity recording, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah. So yeah, I was just talking about the kills being the tension in the kills not really ratcheting up in the same way as the first one does in the second act. Would you agree with that?
Okay. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you 100%. I felt like the kills or just the tension was lackluster. And I definitely want to point out, first and foremost, to anybody who is like a super Halloween fan, this is technically Halloween 2. They wipe out every other Halloween movie except for the first one. So if you go into this expecting it like to be Halloween 40 or, you know, 4K40 or I don't know, like H2O, I was just kind of thinking H40. That's not the case. All of the other movies have been wiped out. They take it back to basics. Michael Myers is a product of the insane asylum. He's, been there his whole entire life. He's never once left up until, this moment. And I'm not going to give too much away, but I felt like I thought the movie concentrated more on the emotional connection that Jamie Lee Curtis's character had with her daughter, her estranged daughter and granddaughter, and how much it fucked up their family, this like Michael Myers thing over the past 40 years, than it did on Michael Myers. Though the third act is kind of what you see in the trailer, but that's it. Like, you don't see Michael Myers isn't even existent until the third act. And you're just like, wait, I thought this was a Halloween movie, not like some dramatic reenactment of Laurie Strode's like fucked up, parenting.
And I'll tell you
that's
what
probably disappointed me a little bit.
They were mentioning in the Q&A afterwards that it's a story about three women, a generation of women versus this madman. And I'm like, it's kind of that, because the granddaughter character seems to be the new Laurie Strode through the second act of this movie. And then her story just drops out of it. Like, she has this thing with her boyfriend that never comes back. She plays very little. She has a very little impact on the third act, but at all. only to show up and add an extra complication to the proceedings. Like, Judy Greer gets a great moment near the end here to be a fucking badass, which is great for her. I love Judy Greer so much. And yeah, so there are weird elements that I was like, the second act feels like it's wandering, like we don't really like. I liked a lot of what they did in the first act too of the setup, but after that we are like, once the bus crashes, we're all just waiting for the face off between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, there's no question that that's where this is leading to, and that all the other kills are just stepping stones to get to here.
Yep.
So, but once it gets there, that third act is so fucking badass that I actually gets a lot. It wins me back a lot in the movie. Like, it is very much Home Alone, like
Halloween style.
Doomsday Prepper Laurie Strode versus Michael Myers.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
And the trailer does kind of show that off a little bit.
yeah. It's even better and more intense than even the trailers sell it.
Nice.
Like, she makes a lot of really cool decisions in this, and then that reflect back onto the first Halloween of like they openly acknowledge how good Michael Myers is as sneaking up on people and not being seen, to the point where there's a whole point in the third act where her house is rigged to fight against that ability of his to corner him, and it's really fucking cool.
There's some really cool spots, especially where, like, straight up, like, blatant throwbacks. Unfortunately, sometimes they get a little too heavy-handed. And you're just like, really? Really? You're going to shove that down our throat? Specifically with the new psychiatrist for Michael Myers. And you're just like, oh my gosh, can you stop milking this so much?
I liked how Jamie Lee Curtis comes up like, oh, so you're the new Loomis, huh? Like even some of the writing in here is pretty funny because it has been written by Danny McBride, and they even introduced this new little kid character in the middle of it that has got to be the best part of the second act of like the kid that is being babysat. Like, he's so funny, it conflicts with the tone of the scene that's happening. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's definitely gonna. I'm very curious of how it's gonna play in October when it releases. Yeah. Did anything else for Fantastic Fest? I did want to mention at the Halloween panel, Jamie Lee Curtis seemed high as fuck.
Dude, she was like stroking the actress that played her granddaughter, and then would not stop talking about what was it? Five Nights at
Freddy's.
Yeah, and she was just like rubbing her I don't know who the actress was that played her granddaughter. She was just like stroking her nonstop for the whole entire time.
For me and Les, who both are kind of averse to that type of human interaction, is like touching or in a personal space. We were both like, I would make me super uncomfortable of having someone pet me the entire time during the same. And you're kind of trapped there because what do you do? Like, try and knock her hand off and make it real obvious, but. When they showed pictures of because they emailed us press pictures of everything that was happening at Fantastic Fest, I was shocked that they got any pictures of Jamie Lee Curtis not stroking her guest star. Those must have been few and far between.
Wow,
they had because seriously, it was like all she was doing. I'm not sure if she was drunk or if someone gave her a blunt right before she got up on stage, but like. I've seen people on you know what it was? I've seen people on ecstasy act that exact same way.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah,
because of the texture and then rubbing on something like, oh goodness, and like this feels nice. Like, that's what it felt like. Of like, she's not all like she's not you. I dare you to tell me she was 100% sober during that thing. Like,
there was no way.
Yeah. And there was a lot of cool press things like Q&As after the movies that I got to see. Like, I was in the room for a lot of them, like the Tenacious D Q&A and some of the other, like, I was in the Girls with Balls Q&A for what it was, or whatever it was worth. And I got to see the main Go ahead, Patience.
Oh no, I was just thinking about, like, I was in the same theater as the Unthinkable Q&A, and the Unthinkable has 5 Swedish directors. 5 directors.
Yeah.
And they all fell asleep during their own movie, and I was, like, sitting right next to them, just like, they're snoring. I can't hear their movie because they were snoring so loud.
That's funny.
They were passed the fuck out.
God, that's funny. I like that. I got to hang out with one of the main star from Overlord. All the stars after the movie was done and they got the party going. They were all behind this security line for like special badge holders and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Except for the main star who made a point of jumping out of that and just going to the bar and mingling with all the just random fans there.
Nice.
And me and Les got to talk to him about the opening sequence for a little bit, and he was ecstatic. Like, he was riding high because he was in our screening. No, that was when I wasn't in the screening room with him, but everyone was hooting and hollering and having a good time at his movie, and he was just like, obviously he's never been part of this big genre type movie before. So I think he was just like, oh my god, this is so cool. People love my movie, and everyone was coming up to him and like tell him how much they loved it and that they loved him in it. And I think it was a new experience for him, and we got to see that.
Just riding high.
Yeah, and it was cool. Like, he was a really cool dude. I forget his name. But yeah, he was real cool. And Wyatt Russell was there, and Fitz from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was there. And I got to shake Danny McBride's hand before he went in for the Halloween screening.
And Jason Blum.
Jason Blum was also, yeah, he was riding in behind him. I don't think I said hi to Blum, though. And
I did.
I got to meet Elijah Wood for a hot second.
Elijah Wood, who is seriously, like, he's the darling of Fantastic Fest. He really is.
Did you see the meme going around of him riding that scooter?
Yeah. Cargill took that picture.
Yeah, that's what I figured. And he's got a cigarette in his mouth, and he's just riding one of the electric scooters. One does not simply walk into Mordor.
One does not simply walk into Fantastic Fest.
And it was just, he's got this big smile on his face, and you tell he's having a grand old time. And it's just, it was so funny. Like, it was, also he is a small man. He's tiny.
He's tiny. And I don't want to belittle him as a person, but he is kind of like the mascot of Fantastic Fest. His production company unveiled a virtual reality game, Transference, through Ubisoft, and he's always loved Fantastic Fest. He's gone every single year. I've never actually spoken to him, even though I've been like 5 feet away from him dozens and dozens of times, because I don't want to be that person. But he's friendly and lovely, and everyone is just like, he's one of us, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah, also has very soft eyes. His eyes, you can get lost in eyes like that. They're innocent eyes. What were we talking about?
So you're saying
again?
you went to Austin and then stared into someone's eyes?
Yeah.
You know, he probably found that creepy. Mm-hmm. You know how I know that, Nick? You know how I know that, Nick?
We know.
Because someone else might have gone...
Hey, I got myself out of there, and I broke eye contact, and I observed regular social contact, regular social contracts. Unlike some people we could mention, Denise. But
Nick, your eyes are so blue.
I just can't stop looking into your eyes, Nick.
None of you are doing it right. You got to add in the breathing of your eyes. They're so. Blue.
They're so
okay, but yeah, remember we didn't see the whole thing because Patience and I bailed.
We ditched you.
It looks so great on my mantle. What?
I want to put your eyes in my fishbowl. What? Yeah. Wait,
what? But yeah, boy.
We probably shouldn't talk about that.
We should not. We love you, Denise.
Yeah.
That's fine. We're good.
Yeah. Totally great. I have to live in this city. She's standing outside my window right now.
I mean, we're in Wisconsin.
Hey, I heard you guys were talking about me.
Are you guys talking to Nick and Travis right now?
How are you always out of breath? God damn it, breathe, woman. Breathe at a normal pace.
Hey,
you're freaking me out.
You guys are going to cut this out, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
probably
good.
not. I'm too lazy.
Nick will not remember to do this. Or
I will not remember to cut this out.
Dude, come on. It's not like Corey or Oliver listen, but still.
Yeah, but otherwise, what a fun Fantastic Fest.
I'm really sad that you missed the closing night party, Nick.
I am also sad about that.
You and Travis would have had an amazing time. First of all, 2 words, open bar.
Mm-hmm.
They had roulette.
Yeah, I'm real sad I missed that for sure.
Yeah, especially since how expensive Fantastic Fest can be over, it's 8 days spending 12 hours a day in a movie theater. And even though they do give us a special discounted menu, which is much appreciated, and they give us special discounts on beer and stuff like that, it's still, it adds up. It really does. Yeah. And so, you try and do what you can budget-wise, but thankfully, I was able to win some Alamo Drafthouse coupons at the costume contest, which Nick and I were able to use for food and booze. So that helped out a lot. But the closing night party, open bar, I did win the tattoo lottery, and this was probably one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had. So I'm sitting there getting my Michael Myers tattoo on my ankle because I want it to remind me to never stop chasing my goals and never give up. And Doug Benson
never give up, like the best of them.
Exactly. So Doug Benson is just standing there watching me get my tattoo, and our colleague Ben is filming the whole entire thing, and I was like, can you just... And I'm like, Doug Benson, why are you sitting there staring at me getting my tattoo? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, are you going to get a tattoo? He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, maybe you should get Leonard Maltin. He's like, nah. I'm not, because they also offered a Leonard Maltin tattoo. And it was just such a surreal experience because I'm pretty drunk at this point, being filmed for One of Us by Ben, and Doug Benson's just sitting there staring at me. I was staring at my tattoo experience. I was like, dude, do you, can I get, do you want a picture or something?
Take a picture, it'll last longer.
No. I know. He's just sitting there all drunk. I think he was drunker than I, to be honest. But it was just kind of a surreal experience. And I think that's what, if you want to think about Fantastic Fest, it's just a surreal experience. You started off by getting a handshake from Danny McBride, and you end it by Doug Benson watching you get a Mike Myers tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a week.
Did you catch Bad Times at the El Royale then?
I did see Bad Times at the El Royale, and I liked it.
Okay.
Not everyone did, though.
Mm-hmm.
It seems weird.
It's Drew Goddard, so it's gonna have it's kind of I think of Drew Goddard as being like Quentin Tarantino light. The Diet Cokes of Quentin Tarantino. And I think that Bad Times at El Royale definitely is the Diet Coke of Quentin Tarantino. It's the different storylines that all come together at the end. He has it broken down by their room numbers. And you get a feel for each of the individual characters. Some of them die, some of them live. Chris Hemsworth plays the villain, and I rather liked him as a villain. I thought he was a little bit too over the top for my particular taste, but I think he was fine for everybody else. So, just, if you wanted a not super over-the-top, gory version of, let's say, Four Rooms / Pulp Fiction that didn't say the N-word at all, then you get bad times at El Royale.
All right, I can dig it.
Great, I gotcha.
It's like the politically correct version.
Drew Goddard has also directed Cabin in the Woods and some episodes of The Good Place, so he's one of the good ones in our book for sure.
Yeah, I absolutely love. I mean, Cabin in the Woods is literally my favorite horror film ever.
Also, he wrote it too. Like he's done a lot of writing and stuff.
All right.
He also
The
wrote
Martian,
Bad Times
World
as
War
well.
Z.
Yep.
Some episodes of Lost. Like he's got a good pedigree.
I'm not a fan of World War Z, but I did love The Martian, and I think he's just I'll watch anything he makes. Honestly, I'll watch it. Some of my colleagues, particularly Chris Cox, he hated it, but I told Chris Cox, I was like, "You're not feeling good," because he had the fantastic flu at this point. So he wasn't feeling good. He was 100% sober. He didn't want to be there. And it's a smidge long. It's like 2 hours, 21 minutes, I think. So it is just a bit long. So if you're not feeling good, you want to go party, that you're not going to be in the mindset for it. So I was like, Chris, just watch it again. Watch it one more time.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually watched some of the screenings with him as well. I think I watched Terrified, which was a fun movie with him, but I watched Loose with him too. And I remember because I fell asleep in Loose, and when I woke up after like a couple minutes, I was like, and Chris was just gone. And he just walked out like, fuck this fucking movie.
He literally, I can't stop saying that fucking word. He will walk out, he'll just be like, yeah, fuck this. I've seen him walk out of movies and he'll just be like, I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette, and he'll never come back. And you're just
never
like,
seen a hood from again.
Yeah. You're just like, wait, what happened to Chris? Oh, yeah, I wish I would have had the balls to walk out too, because I hate this movie.
Yeah, other than that, I think, I had a fun time hanging out with you there. Hopefully I can manage my time next year better if I get back down there.
Hey, it's all learning. It's all learning. This year, last year was my first year, and I was a total amateur, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I missed out on, so many things. This year, I felt like, I got this all together, and I still didn't do as much as I should have.
Sure.
Well, but I did more than last year, but I also... it sucks because my birthday falls on Fantastic Fest, so I feel like I have to balance my birthday, and then, of course, I get, have to take a day to recover from my birthday, so...
Sure. Like you do.
Yeah.
Like you do.
But I felt like I was so prepared this year. I was like, I have snacks, I have emergency, I have cough drops, I have, all of these, I'm ready to go. I had snacks for Nick.
Yep.
Healthy and non-healthy, and I was like, we could do this, we can, eat, and then that lasted all of one day.
Yeah, Travis knows about me, when you experienced last time I was there too, of, I don't need that much sleep, especially during a festival setting, or a convention setting, so I, use that to my advantage more nights than not. Even I had my limits. I had to crash at a certain point. But yeah,
obviously you were falling asleep in movies,
right?
Well, I remember I was falling asleep in some of the midnighters that I caught, and anything with Dream Logic. I fell asleep a little bit in Lady World, Loose, and then I fell asleep in Suspiria. Of just things that were just not holding my attention, because I was like, well, I could focus on the... it's not like if I miss Suspiria, if I could miss 10 minutes of it, it's not like I'm going to be confused when I wake up.
More or less.
I pretty much got the gist of it since the first hour. And now we're another hour in, and I'm like, okay, we're waiting for the... Oh, finally the third act is here. What is Jabba the Hutt doing here? What the fuck?
That was so weird. I mean, if you haven't
not
seen
to get
the
too
first
far into
one,
the spoilers,
like,
but that bitch looked like Jabba the Hutt, right? Like she looked like she had Salacious Crumb at her beck and call, like.
Oh yeah, it was really weird. So Nick, if you could say that you had one favorite moment of the whole entire festival, what was that moment?
That's an interesting question. I think my favorite camaraderie moment with Les was actually during the movie of Deadly Games, which was a real fun movie about like that Home Alone just ripped off. That it's never gotten distribution in America, and I hope it does because it's my new favorite Christmas movie. And we are watching this kid fight off this crazy man dressed up as Santa Claus that's just invaded his house and like done all this fucked up shit. And at a certain point, we see a letter that he's written to his friend, and it says, "Santa is coming to kill me. Send help." And Les turns to me and he says, "Oh my God, he still thinks it's Santa." Like for whatever reason, we both thought that the kid knew it was a crazy guy, that he was, because this kid's a genius, like he's super smart, but he still believes. So by the end of this movie, he realizes, when he goes on this montage of gearing up to fight Santa and creates murder weapons to go against him, me and Liz realize at the same time, he's going to kill Santa. That's his resolve. And Les just says like, this movie is fucking rad. Like, and I think that was probably one of my favorite moments, if not the another one with Patience, in which we were both watching One Cut of the Dead, and we hit the 37-minute mark, and the movie starts again. And me and Patience were kind of like to look at each other, and then suddenly I was watching the audience turn on the movie and fall in love with it. Just watching the audience do it while I was also on the same journey as them was a very amazing experience. Also,
that 37-minute mark changes everything, and you don't even know it.
I watched a movie lose its audience, and then the room light up after a certain point, and everyone got into it.
Wow, like, that's impressive.
Yeah, it was. I've never been part of a cinematic experience like that.
Yeah,
I've never had that happen.
Travis. Yeah, it really was amazing. Travis, what was your favorite moment of not having Nick be at home during the last week?
It was just so quiet. Like, it was so nice.
How about you, Patience? What was your favorite moment?
I'm gonna have to agree with you about One Cut of the Dead. That 37-minute mark. Okay, so the programmer comes out and he's like, "Hey," and this is the main programmer for Fantastic Fest. This is like the big kahuna. And he comes out and he's like, "Listen, just give it a chance. Just wait. I promise you." He said this at his little introduction. He was like, "I started watching this movie and I said to myself, this movie is terrible and it's never going to make it to Fantastic Fest." He's like, by the 90-minute mark, I couldn't write that email fast enough trying to get them to bring it here. This movie has sold out every single theater in Japan with no advertising, no marketing, strictly just by word of mouth.
Wow.
And it was crazy because Nick is completely 100% right. The first 37 minutes, it's like a lot of like rattling of glasses and shuffling, and people are just like sighing and like, "Oh my God, what the fuck?" And
I know we're going long, so I don't want to go on about it. But you know what's brilliant about that first 37 minutes is that it's just competent enough that it doesn't give away what it is. It's just competent enough that you go, I guess someone might have picked this movie for a Fantastic Fest. Like it's very amateurish. There's dialogue that goes nowhere. There's random scenes that feel so out of place. Plot elements are dropped out of nowhere. Like, and It's shot pretty like on this gradient scale of like old school. It feels very old school, and it is
it's all one take.
And it's all one take, right? Which is a very artistic choice. So it makes you think like, okay, I could see why someone would pick this. And it doesn't give itself away. So you're not ready for it when it actually hits in that after the 37-minute mark. And you're like, holy shit.
You do realize that if you show me this movie, I'm going to literally have an alarm for 37 minutes at this point.
Right. But we did too. When we watched it, and we were like, and then I was still confused. I was still like, what's happening? And then suddenly it really does all click, and it was real, man, I can't tell you how smart this movie is. Like, it is very clever, and like it intentionally like loses you. So that you can come back and notice shit later and go, oh, and then you can experience the idea of filmmaking of loving or just being proud of something that you know isn't that great, but just feeling the level of accomplishment of like, I did it. I made this thing. And you'll get it. Like you'll get I can't really describe it without utterly spoiling what it's about, but
I understand.
Yeah,
but
it
I can't tell you guys, it super impressed me. It's got to be my favorite. Like, look, the more I talk about it, the more I think that I actually like it better than, say, something like Cabin in the Woods and Tucker and Dale.
Wow.
And I don't say that lightly.
I wouldn't
no,
go
those
that
are your
far,
top
but
picks.
I like it because it's so different. You know, Cabin in the Woods still plays on the same tropes. Tucker and Dale still plays on the same tropes. This goes far, like, it does not have any tropes. This is
we only
a
compare it
whole
to
new
Tucker
genre.
and Dale. Yeah, we only compare it to Tucker and Dale and Cabin in the Woods because we don't have anything else to compare it to because it's so its own thing.
Wow.
Because it's meta, but it's not. It doesn't have any tropes. There's nothing like this movie that I've ever seen before.
How can you be meta without a trope? Like,
well, it's.
I know that's true.
I had to write an article for That's My
You just
Entertainment.
have to see it.
I had to write an article recently. I just saved the draft of it on for That's My Entertainment right before we recorded, and it's like a 300 to 400 word article, and all it really says is that go see One Cut of the Dead. Stop reading this. No, for real, stop reading this.
No, seriously though.
Trust me. You don't want to read the rest of this. Just go see it. Like, why are you still here? Why are you still reading this?
Why are you still reading this? This is 300 words of me just telling you not to read this anymore. There's a rumor that hopefully it will get picked up for distribution. A24 seemed to be very interested in picking it up for distribution. And gods, I hope so, because seriously, if this movie doesn't get picked up, I'm going to be just heartbroken.
Yeah.
I want everyone to watch this movie.
well, I want to watch this movie now because I just want to know what the fuck's going on here.
Yeah, we'll see if I can't swing it for you. We got the access to the screener room for an extra week, so I'm thinking of definitely.
I was going to say it's in the screening room.
I'm definitely going to watch it again, and I'm going to watch some of these movies again in the screener room for sure, because I liked them that much. But yeah, that was our Fantastic Fest. I had a great time. Thank you so much for recording with us, Patience.
Oh, thanks for having me as always, and oh gosh, I miss you already. My intro.
Intro. I'm intro. This is Petro. I go first. I do the introductions, and so yeah. While we are busy riding and dying together, would you like to tell the people where they can find you on the internet?
Absolutely. You can find me, as usual, on Deliberations of Doom on oneofus.net. I also kind of do a little highly suspect reviews once in a while, and recently been doing some Screener Squad. You can also find me on UGO at Netflix and Kill, and The Pod Against Evil, and as always on the Twitters, the Instagrams, and the Facebook prof.patience.
That is great. And you can find us at any of our back catalog of content at the UGO channel on iTunes. Subscribe to us while you're there. Give us a 5-star review if you can, if you got the time. It really helps us beat that algorithm. Check out our Netflix and Kills and Pod Against Evil. That's ramping up. I will be in New York next week. For the Santa Gets Evil panel and covering some stuff for That's My Entertainment. It's going to be a good time, so definitely check out some of the stuff there. Read all my reviews on of the fantastic movies I saw on That's My Entertainment as they go up sometime this week, probably. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at UGO Podcast and all that good shit, and at our Instagram's the same thing. Watch out for New York Comic Con pics that I'll be showing. I think I grabbed a couple fantastic pics while I was down there too, of just me and my fantastic friends hanging out. With that, until next week, guys, we are on College Geek Out, and we're out.